Welcome to our Facebook Live today. I'm Tracy Whitley with Churchill Mortgage. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat box. If you have any issues with streaming, please refresh your screen, and we'll be recording this for you to view at a later date. I'd like to take a minute to welcome our guest speaker, Kim Pearse, of The Staging Consultant in Nashville, Tennessee. She's the owner and lead designer, and you may have seen her on HGTV sharing her home staging secrets. Let's give Kim a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for having me and for that wonderful introduction. I am so excited. You know, I can always talk anything about getting your home ready to get it sold. So before we start, I want to talk about what is staging. Staging truly is a marketing tool. It's to get those really, really important photos, which is your first showing, everybody, is when you see those photos online, they need to be amazing. The other thing that staging does, it showcases the best features of your home. Whether it's a gorgeous fireplace with the bookends, whether it is a beautiful view, wonderful wainscoting, all of those fabulous ideas, those are the things that we really want to show our buyers. We want to tell a story of the home. Staging is to make sure that we can tell the story about how it would be like to live in the home, but let's not forget, we don't want to show buyers how you live in the home. So let's tell that story, what it would be like walking in, starting your morning, enjoying your time on the back deck. And then that allows people to fall in love. So, but one thing we have to do is to show buyers how they can live in the home and not how you live in the home. So if you see the photos here, this is a consultation I did when I first walked in. This is how buyers will live in a home. We totally live different than when we are listing. So we want to showcase each area to have a function of the room. So you know what? We just turned this room into not necessarily a catch-all, but a nice, inviting, sitting, living, formal area. So this is what we want to show. Only 10% of buyers can visualize the home's potential. So speaking of how we make a video, we made a video on how we staged a home office. Super, super important area this time of our lives. So let's take a look. The home office. It is one of the top 5 money rooms, but ever more so now. I actually think it's moved up to the #1 money room in a house. But as you come in through, we've got these wonderful, great glass doors in this home office. So you can still feel like you're part of the family as you're working in here. But this office is a great size. We actually painted this room to give it the feel. This color matches the ceiling of the dining room to kind of give some continuity to it. So when I was planning for this room, I am really truly focusing on what the photos are going to look like. So as we come into this room, I put my desk here facing out. And the reason I do this is because we want to make sure that people can look out into out the windows, look out and see who's coming and going through the hallways. And a lot of us are working with laptops, so we don't have all the cords. However, if you are living in this home, I probably would think that you would have your desk and chair here. You still get to be able to look out both ways. And then if you do have any of those nonsense cords, there's a plug back here. So that might be a better, but at least this gives you an option. The goal for staging an office is to truly make sure we are defining the function of the room. Of course, that's why we put a desk in here. But we want to make sure that we have the size and the scale of the room. So your desk can't be too big. It can't be too small. You have to have chairs. I like to have a little bit higher chair for the desk chair and a little bit lower chairs for the guest desk chair. So the other thing is I like to do, again, it sounds like a broken record, but I bring greenery in. And then you'll notice I am still using the same colors, blacks, grays, and whites. And for this room, I wanted to add a little bit of some fun elements to it. So I put this really fun Dodge car here. It worked with our colors, but it does have a little bit of the brownish, leathery tobacco leather look. So I needed to bring that through the room. So we want to make sure that in the 3 levels of the room is the floor, the mid-level, and the walls all have those same colors. So on the floor, we've got the black rug, and then we were coordinating the black rug with the pillows that's matching the road, or I guess it's the road on there. And then also, this is just a faded color of this piece of art that still tends to bring in all of the same colors. So we know offices are important. Not everybody's desk is going to look this good. But again, just make sure you find a place for a working space in your home if you're selling it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That is a great example of showing buyers how they can live in the home. So now we're going to talk about the top 10 things you should do when selling your home. So what are the first 3 things you should do? Well, number 1 is the D word. It's a word I do not have in my vocabulary. It's the declutter word. I like to say it more empowering to say pre-pack or edit. So those are all of the things that you really don't need to have while you're listing the home. For example, your winter clothes when it's summertime, or vice versa. So let's remove, those are what I call distractions. Number 2 is remove all those personal photos. We really want people to look at the fixed assets, which remember is the fireplace, the crown molding, those kind of things. But I watch people walk into homes, and if there's personal photos, they're looking at, oh, do I know this person? Or, oh, what a cute little baby picture, that kind of stuff. We don't want to take their mind off of your house. They're going to buy your house and your fixed assets. And everybody, let's talk number 3. It's clean, and I don't mean that mother-in-law tidy. I truly do mean clean. We want to make sure as if the president is coming directly into your home. That's how super important we want to have your house. And don't forget, behind the doors in the bathroom, all of those dust bunny. So speaking of cleaning, bathrooms and kitchens are the number 1 things that need to be sparkling clean. So we recorded a video to show you a really clean, but how I staged a bathroom. So let's watch it now. Master bathrooms. It is one of the 5 money rooms. So we've got a beautiful bathroom, but what we really want to do is show how you can live in here. So here we've got 2 vanities. I always like to, even if there's only 1 vanity, have a his and hers, just so everybody can get the understanding that we've got 2. I don't have to share, he doesn't have to share, or vice versa. So the other thing that we like to do in vanities is we have to bring in texture. Texture typically in a bathroom is towels, because everything else, the countertops, the flooring, the toilets, the sinks, those are all hard surfaces. So what we want to do is bring in towels. So I love the fact that we get 2 towel rings on here. So first thing I do, always when I'm staging, I use white towels, because when you go into a hotel, you're always going to have white. It just feels and smells fresh and clean. So this is easy. You just put a white towel, a nice little hand towel. Make sure your tags aren't showing. Sometimes I have to safety pin them, or at the very end of the day, I come in and I steam them. So they're nice, they fit nice. So I'm going to make this one a male one. So let's go in. Wooden toothbrushes are just a fun thing. Nobody would use these for real, but it's a fun thing to add. So we're going to put some wooden toothbrushes here. And then I've got some male colognes. And you know what? I'm going to use I'm going to just use this because it's kind of a fun tray. So I don't like to put a lot of things on a countertop. I like to have it positioned with a tray or something that's kind of holding it. And then we've got just a kind of a fun little beard or mustache brush. Again, that is just to add texture. So then obviously what we need here is we need some soap, because we're all washing our hands now, right? So we just have soap, and I picked some golds because we have a lot of golds and blacks. So again, I'm coordinating all of this with the same part of the house. So now I'm going to do the other vanity here. We're going to start with a towel, our hand towel. Remember, we're going to fold it in thirds so it lays nice and flat, and then we're going to just slip it here on the ring. And make sure your tags aren't showing again. So again, we've got some softness there. And then I think I'm actually going to add a little bit of softness. These are super fun. You know, some bath salts, some bath sugar cubes. I don't know that anybody actually uses them, but they're real pretty on bathrooms. So I'm going to use a tray. Now this time, this is going to be a little bit more feminine. So I'm going to use just a clear glass with a little bit of a gold trim on it. And put my bath salts over here. And then I'm just going to lay and put a couple washcloths over here just to have it, just again, to add some texture. And always I try to bring in a greenery. For the female side, I'm going to use a nice orchid. Again, bringing in that gold just to kind of bring some height up here. Just a little bit of softness here. So I roll these washcloths, super easy, and it looks elegant. Notice when you go into hotels, they always have a lot of things rolled. So we always are trying to show a lifestyle in which you can have when you buy this house. Just kind of put a little bit of X over here, get the fuzzies off of it. That adds, just adds some softness to this as well. And again, master bathrooms are one of the 5 money rooms. So have fun with it. And just make sure if you're selling your house, don't have your toothbrushes out, don't have your hairbrushes out. Nobody wants to see it. We want our master bathrooms to feel very, very spa-like. Wasn't that a pretty bathroom? And super easy, those things to do, right? You can do that. So let's get back to the top 10. So yes, those top 3 things are really, really important. But I know today you want to get more than what you would find if you were looking on Google for home staging tips. So number 4, my favorite thing to talk about is paint color. Paint is money in a can, everyone. It is the easiest and the less expensive way to update a space more than you can imagine and more than anything in another room. So really bold colors. When you first see this room, this bathroom, on the top, it is, you just see red, right? It distracts the buyers from really that beautiful cabinetry, the nice lighting, that type of thing. So same bathroom on the bottom, but paint, we just made it more neutral, more open, and now you can really see how inviting that bathroom is. Paint is the easiest way to update a space. Number 5, function and flow. So function and flow is really only used to show off those fixed assets. So a lot of times people think when we're staging, we just bring in all this beautiful furniture, we use the furniture that's in someone's home, but the placement of the furniture is to show off those assets. We want to make sure people can easily walk up to this fireplace or to see that wonderful, this had such a beautiful view. We want to make sure there's nothing in there. The only thing that the furniture does is to show the function of a room. We wouldn't be doing our job if somebody walked out of this house, a buyer walked out of this house and said, wow, what a super cool sofa that is. That's not what we're selling. We are selling the space. So make sure you have some open space, people can walk around and get to the actual fixed assets in a room. All right, y'all, trust me on this and take my word for it, really. If things need fixed, please do it ahead of time. So many times I hear, well, I'll just take a credit from I'll give an advancement or something so they can fix it. Nobody knows. Everybody picks, they want to have their own color of carpet or what's. But I'm telling you, if you have stains in a carpet, if you have leaky faucets, if you have that darn little door handle that you can't even get into the house, so many of those things can be done by yourself. And honestly, it's going to cost you less doing it ahead of time, because people will think changing something out is going to be triple the cost if they have to do it, because a lot of our buyers, they don't have time to do it. They don't know how to do it. So then you have to put the inconvenience factor in. So make sure you're doing that. I love curb appeal, number 7. How cute is this, right? So most buyers, potential buyers, will actually drive by a home before they even schedule a time to go list it. So we want to make sure that that front curb appeal, or anything they can see by driving by it, is super good. Manicured lawn. Make sure you can see the house so your bushes and shrubs are not covering it. Make sure that you have great lighting. And I love to have a super shot of happy on the front porch. So what I mean by that is we want to have a colorful or a nice fresh coat of paint on your front door. So let's talk about a few of these steps. We already talked about making sure your lawn is very manicured. In the summertime, make sure you're watering it, because we all know the heat and the sun can really very quickly deaden our lawns. Fresh mulch. Easy, cheap, inexpensive. Everybody can do it. Super good. And one thing to note, your mulch color should match your roof color. So if you have a super dark roof, make sure you have a super dark mulch. Just a quick little tip. Dead plants, they just don't need to be around. Remove all those lawn decor. I don't care if it's a hippopotamus or the deer or the penguins. I see it all. We don't need those in our lawn. Make sure the front porch is clean and inviting. Get away all of the leaves off of the front porch. Make sure the dust bunnies are all gone and all those cobwebs that collect overnight. I know. Like I said, repaint the front door. That's really easy to do, and it's a very fresh, inviting first entrance and first impression. Update your house numbers. So many times I'll go to a house, I cannot even read to make sure I'm going to the right house. So make sure those are bright and really fresh. Easy for a can of spray paint, goodness, can do that for you. And then make sure your porch is lighted well, and make sure you get all the bugs out of all of those ceiling lights and everything like that. I know they go in every time, but we want to make sure that we have a nice, bright, and not yellow lighting. Oh, speaking of that, let's talk about number 8. I don't know why we need to have a science degree anymore to figure out how to buy light bulbs, right? You go to the big box stores and oh my goodness, there's rows and rows. So here's some couple quick tips here. We want lighting to be very inviting. So on the back of all of our light bulbs packages now, there is something that looks like this. It's called the Kelvin scale. And if you see about 3/4 of the way down, it says light appearance. Sometimes it'll just have a big K there. But light appearance, think of it as like our old wattage, like a 40 watt, 100 watt, that type of thing. Now it's the Kelvin scale, and we're talking warm to cool. Lighting is so important. So what we want to have when we are photographing our lights is more on the warmer side. So I like to stay between 2,700 and 3,000 on our scale. So the lower that number is, the more warm it is, and warm is going to make it feel more blue. The higher the number scale, because it can go up well past 5,000, that's how much it'll show it's cooler. And cooler actually makes it yellow. So if you see the example of this kitchen here, That backsplash looks like it's got yellow tile on it, right? It doesn't. It's a beautiful white subway. The lighting is just incorrect on here. So we don't want to confuse people on what they see. Truly, lighting, natural light, whenever you can get that in, is super important. And then when you have to use light bulbs and things like that, this is a great tip for that. Okay, so not only lighting is important, but our lighting fixtures. So look at the big X. How many of you have some of these light bulbs in your house, right? I know I did. So the Hollywood light bulbs, you know what? They're out. They're very cheap looking. We don't want anybody to have that thought of cheap in their brain or subconscious when they're walking through your home. And then those brass lights, yes, they're still around, I know. And everybody is telling me, well, gold's back. I'm going to tell you, gold is not brass. It is super not the same. So we want to kind of freshen those up. And then I'm just going to say it, we call those top lights the boob lights. Super cheap. You probably buy them for $7 to $15. That just really is not even just builder gray. That's the cheapest light bulb that you can buy. But look at the items on the left. These are super on trend and relatively inexpensive. Probably $15 to $25 more than what you would spend on those other lights. But you can get flush lights, semi-flush. These are really on trend. It can update a room literally in a heartbeat. Number 9. These are where we get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty. Remember, I don't use the D word, so I'm going to say, let's pre-pack anything smaller than a cantaloupe. It just becomes visual dandruff, if you will, in the photos. So if you look at some of these closets, we want to make sure that closets are super, super clean, organized. We can see the floor. I'll give you a hint. There's 3 money closets that you want to spend time, effort, and your focus on. The master closet, your pantry, and a linen closet. Those are what we call the 3 money closets. So we want to be able to see through them. We want to be able to see the floor, and we don't want them to be packed so far to the gills where we don't even know what's behind our treasures, right? A couple other pre-packing items are let's edit out anything that has eyes, names, and dates. You know what that's going to get? Our personal photos or some of those creepy Victorian things that have those eyes that tend to follow you around in a room. Anything with names, that's going to get our diplomas, our children's names on our walls, that type of thing. And then anything with dates. So those are kind of our personal things. If we keep eyes, names, and dates in your brain as you're walking through your house, perfect step to get your house ready to market. Let's pre-pack all the items on the side, the front, the tops of the refrigerator. That is a real distraction. We saw that in a picture ahead of time. I was in a house not long ago where there was well over 100 magnets on the refrigerator, and she didn't want to remove them. And I said, well, people are going to think you travel all the time, so maybe you don't need the full price of your house, right? Guess what? She removed them right away once we talked about that. And those well-loved curtains, that typically is going to put a timestamp on your home. They're often very dark, they're very heavy, and a lot of times we know that they cost money back 5, 7, 10 years ago, but it's not what buyers are looking for. So most of the time I'm going to recommend that we remove and pre-pack our well-loved curtains. But it's okay to keep those curtains in your bedrooms because as you're living in your house, we want to make sure that we have some privacy, right? And if you have a big taxidermy hanging on a wall, I don't care if it's even in the garage, let's go ahead and pre-pack those, set it up nice and neat in a great big box so it's ready for your new house. The idea behind these couple of things are we don't want to offend or have somebody cancel out the beauty of your home just because they don't have the same beliefs that you do. So remember, when we're selling our home, we're trying to appeal to the mass amount of buyers. We know most of the demographics of them, but we want to make sure that we are not alienating anybody. So that has to also do with religious or anything political. So go ahead and pre-pack those. Okay, so a lot of times I will talk to people about when your eye stops in a room, it actually creates a visual block. And I'm kind of a nerd and I study a lot of neuroscience, so I know that when we have a visual block in a room, it actually makes the room feel smaller. So if you look at this picture, here's the one that's got the all those items on the refrigerator. So that's where your eye's going to stop. Where I want your eye to look when you see on the picture on the right, I want you to look and see the outside, because now I feel that this has so much more space. Nothing is stopping my view. Nothing is blocking. We read a room exactly like we read a book, from left to right. So we're always going to start on the left. So we want to make sure that we're putting something interesting, something that's got a little bit of color on the right, so our eye will actually scan the whole room. So we can make sure we see those really important fixed assets. All right, number 10. This is my favorite. We talk about creating a story. Only 10% of buyers can only see or feel, which is really important, what is not right in front of them. Only 10%. Makes me crazy, I know, because I can see anything. But when we create a story as the buyers are walking through our house, like setting up a coffee bar, right, in a real prominent area when they first walk into the kitchen. You know what that does? It gets those buyers that message in their brain. It's like, ooh, I can see myself starting my morning here. You know, we all try to have our routines in the morning. Let's get them started. If you're not a coffee buyer and you don't drink coffee, do something with a tea set or something like that. So let's get those visuals. Outdoor spaces, oh wow, they're so important, especially now we're getting into some cooler weather. We're spending a lot of time outdoors. I love to put like a little s'more station out there. You know, just again, I can, have the buyers think I can have my friends over, we can roast marshmallows, we can do these kind of fun things, we can maybe even have an adult beverage. Also putting a rug on an empty deck, that just creates a nice feel of warmth and homey. So we want to create a story in every room. So showing you how we created a couple stories, bookcases. We have styled a bookcase on a video that we are going to watch right now. I love to style bookshelves because every bookshelf is different. So like if you see here, we actually have 2 bookshelves, but the homeowner of this house has turned one side of the bookshelf into the TV room. So we really have these 2 shelves. So what I usually do is I collect things that I want to put on. I usually like to do greenery. I love to do books. I love to put something different on here, like maybe if you are on a trip and you find something really fun, just something that could be a conversation piece. That's one of the fun things I do. So what I usually do is I lay out a whole bunch of different things that I think I'm going to want to use. So one thing you have to notice is we've got 6 shelves. They don't need to be matchy-matchy, but they need to actually connect with each other. You like matchy-matchy, that's a professional term, right? So I will start with these 2 jugs. The reason I'm using a lot of grays and blacks because that's what this house, that's what I'm using to style this. So I think I'm gonna start with this one up here, but then if I did it just like over here, how boring does that look? So I'm gonna add a level and put it down here. And then I think what I want to do is I want to put a greenery and a candle. Greenery, candles, books, fun stuff. That's always great things let's see, I think I'll move this over to the side. And then the trick is I like to do things in odd numbers, 1s, 3s, or 5s. 7s would get, you need a pretty big shelf or something like that. So if you just kind of look, they're close together so it looks like one element of design, but it's actually 3 different pieces. So then what I'll do is I'll go down, since I'm using that same piece over there, I think I'm going to use a different kind of a greenery here, but still use maybe a kind of the same kind of a candle, just a little different. So notice I've got my handles of these jars. One's facing out, one's facing out. So we want to make sure we do that. And I'm slanting it a little bit. It actually gives a little bit of depth if you slant it instead of putting everything straight on. So then we definitely need books because it's a bookshelf, right? So here's a couple tricks. If you have books lying around, I'm using black books just because I'm using blacks and creams. But if you have all different color of books, you can just turn them this way and it's all the same color then. But since I've got all black books today, I'm going to use those. So I'm going to put them out. And this is just a fun frame that I've got, like a telephone. You know, again, we want to put something interesting up here, and I want to have some difference. So yeah, so it's just, I've got some up and down, I've got some horizontal, I've got vertical. That's really how we style. So let's see, let's go, and we're going to kind of do the opposite. I've got this fun little Ferris wheel, again, black and white. And black and white books. So over here, I'm actually going to put these this way and put my piece of art that I have up like that. So again, it's not matchy-matchy, the technical term. And then I love these things. You can get these anywhere. They're Hobby Lobby. They're like $7. You can use them. They come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. But I think I like to use these, and because I want to add just one more little element here, because I want this to feel really busy. So notice I'm doing it in 5. So 3, 4, 5. So that's my opposites. Now over here, I'm going to move that over to the side just so I can kind of coordinate the two. Now notice here, I did these facing each other. These I did it opposite because we want to have a little bit of depth. And then the one thing that you want to know is when you're styling bookshelves, you don't have to fill every shelf. And most times I always want to keep one shelf or maybe a couple shelves, especially if I had real high shelves up there, I would not be styling those because for one, you can't get to them, and you don't really need to. The shelves are pretty enough. So actually, I just have this fun little bowl of dominoes. It's just fun, it's interesting. I'm gonna actually just put it here, and I'm gonna leave that shelf empty just because we don't need it. So notice here, I've got these slanted, and I've got these slanted. These are a little bit opposite like we talked about, but then I'm gonna just center this piece right here. Now up here on the top, because we have such wonderful light, I'm not gonna put anything up here. You could put a really nice greenery or a thin vase, but I'm gonna keep it open because I wanna have as much natural light as I possibly can. So here we used blacks, whites, grays, so I can coordinate it with the living room that I have staged. So what I did here is we've updated the house. It's got a lot of creams. So really, this is a 5-bedroom house that we are working on today. So in the living room where the bookshelves are, I want to make sure that I have one more place to sit than the number of bedrooms, because most of the time, you have 2 people in the master bedroom or the owner's suite these days, and then everybody has their own bedroom. So if you have 5 bedrooms, I want to have a place for 6 people. So here, that's why I brought in kind of a big, heavier couch or sofa, put a bunch of pillows on it. And the reason I do pillows is it just adds so much texture. It's so fun to have so much texture. typically if you're living here, you don't want to have to take off all of your pillows just to sit down. But that's what we're trying to do, is really focus for the photography, because this house is going to be going on the market this week. So you can seat 3 people comfortably here on the sofa. Obviously one in each chair. And I love bringing in just a side chair. This can be a chair where I'm not planning on watching TV. I can sit and read my book. I can have my glass of wine or champagne over here. So if you coordinate it, and you notice that I don't have everything spread out up against the walls. That is probably the biggest mistake when I go into homes. People think that if they are want to make the room bigger, they put everything up against their walls. And we want to have every room be very conversational. Y'all see how easy that was? You can do this. So all of these top 10 things are things that you can do on your own. So I know we probably have some questions here, so we've got some time. So Tracy, is there any questions in the queue?
We do. We have a question from Lori, and it is, I have an extra fridge in the garage that is covered in travel magnets and stickers. Is that okay since it's in the garage?
Good question. You know what? Even though it's in the garage and we are not as particular about our garage, what we really don't want people to see is that you travel a lot. Because again, they start building their own imitation in their mind. So I would still remove all of those, even though they're in the garage.
Okay. And the next question we have is about the mulch and roof color. So what color mulch do you use if your roof is like a mid-tone brown, not black?
Good question. I always get a question on this one, which is why I love to put it out there. So if you have a mid-tone that's probably more on the browner side, use a brown mulch. And I would go with, it's hard to get a mid-tone brown. It's usually just a brown, but I would stay on the brown tones. What we don't want to have is a brown roof and a black mulch, or vice versa.
Perfect. Okay, we have one about the market. So with the market so hot, do I need to even worry about what my home looks like?
Absolutely. That's a question I get all the time as well. So even though the market is very hot, here are some things to think about. If your house is selling as is, which by the way, we're the only industry that still sells things as is, you are probably leaving money on the table. So if you prepared your home just by doing these top 10 things, you could probably get more money for your home and still sell it in a heartbeat.
For window privacy, you mentioned removing loved curtains. Would people prefer to see blinds?
Blinds, I always recommend keeping blinds up if they're not broken, of course, because those are money. You know, some of the beautiful blinds that are out there now, most people do prefer blinds, to answer the exact question, as opposed to especially the heavy drapes. And blinds give us the natural light that we really want. So I would not recommend adding blinds as an expense before you sell it, but if you have blinds, definitely remove the curtains so you can see the blinds, because those will stay in the home.
Great. Our next question is from Linda. Do I add a screen to a fireplace or not?
Linda, good question. Most of the time, I recommend the screen on the fireplace to be removed, because remember, the fixed acid is actually the fireplace, the firewall. Now, if it is not in perfect condition, or if it needs maybe a little bit of paint or something like that, where we don't want to necessarily showcase it right off, you can keep the screen in there, and then they typically will remove it when they're looking at it. But if it's a really nice firebox in the surrounding area, especially the hearth, yes, remove it.
All right, our next question is about flooring. Is it worth it to update flooring so it's the same throughout your house?
Ah, great. Most of the time, I'm going to say yes to that question. Hardwood flooring, or even the less expensive veneers, tiles that look like wood, those are things that I usually do recommend if you have very scratched up floors or the very, very orange type color of wood on the floors. And yes, usually having hardwoods throughout the whole home makes it very continuous. There's no stopping and starting in our brain. Now, if you have a room that has maybe a lighter color carpet in one room and a darker color carpet, but they're both in good shape, no, I would not recommend that you have to have the same carpeting throughout, because most of the time you don't have the carpet where it transitions into another carpet. And then the third type of flooring, to answer the question, is tile. Most of the time, cleaning the grout is just as effective, as long as there's no cracks or things like that, as replacing the tile.
Okay, the next question's from Debbie, and she says, what if you've emptied a large room already? Do you need to bring items in to stage it?
Another good job, good question, Debbie. Here's the deal. I'm a stager that thinks every room does not have to be staged. Let's be real. The more rooms we stage, the more furniture we bring in. If you're working with a professional stager, the more investment it's going to cost. Now, if it is the master bedroom, the living room, the dining room, a den, an office, if those rooms are empty, absolutely, again, those are 5 money rooms. Absolutely, we want to bring in furniture. But if you have a secondary bedroom that most people are going to be able to tell it's a bedroom, you don't necessarily have to. The only other exception to that rule is if you have an awkward space, whether it's a really small bedroom that people are going to even question whether a bed fits in that room, or if you have kind of some weird corners, some weird angles, those are rooms that we want to show a function to make sure people can realize, yes, this is still a room because it's square footage in the home.
Perfect. Okay, the next question is from Shelley. Are white kitchen cabinets going to continue to be popular in the future?
Shelley, white kitchen cabinets are timeless. They have been around for years and years and years. So yes, I believe white kitchen cabinets. I go to a lot of the furniture markets. Haven't been this year, of course, but we are still seeing white kitchen cabinets. Now, a lot of times to get a little bit of more interest than just having white cabinets is to sometimes do your lower cabinets a different color, or maybe an island a different color. We call that kind of a tuxedo look if you're doing white and maybe a dark black or a charcoal or something like that. But I think white kitchens will be here well after I'm gone.
Okay. Similar but different. This is from Emma. Do you anticipate shiplap being in style for a while?
I love to be able to answer that question, but let's see what Joanna Gaines comes out. She brought shiplap back. But again, shiplap before the Fixer Upper was around. We just didn't point it out. It wasn't painted. At least we're here in Nashville, Tennessee. Shiplap is golden. It's going to be around forever. I believe, because of what we're seeing in the trends, modern farmhouse is still around and will be around. So yeah, I think shiplap. We're getting a little more creative with our shiplap by painting them, even staining them, or making them kind of an accent wall type thing. But yeah, I think you're good to go with shiplap for a while.
Okay, what do you think about stainless appliances? Do you recommend any other colors, or just stick with stainless?
Well, that's kind of that loaded question. I think everybody wants to have stainless in their homes. So usually I recommend it. But if you have a perfectly good working, that is well kept, white refrigerator with a white stove that is still wonderfully working, I wouldn't replace it unless it very much has a timestamp on it. What we really don't like to see is a stainless refrigerator, a white stove, and a black microwave, because that's where it gets all hodgepodge and it doesn't make sense.
Okay, Linda has a faux brick on her wall behind her stove. Should she paint it? She thinks it's really ugly.
I might have to agree with you. Faux brick, there's a couple different kinds, either a faux paint on there that looks like brick, definitely I would recommend probably repainting over that. Or if it's, a lot of times we're seeing like the faux brick that is like almost a veneer that's a really thin kind of tile thing. If it looks good, which apparently I don't think it does from what you're saying, but if you don't like it, even though you've probably lived with it for a little while, chances are your buyers are not going to like it either. So let's go ahead and update that space.
Perfect. What if I have a really outdated sofa? Should I get rid of it?
The outdated sofa question. You know what? Again, remember we talked about they're not buying your sofa. They're not going to be talking about your sofa. If it's really outdated, if it's worn, if it smells, if it has rips in it, my answer is going to be yes every single day. But a lot of times if you have an outdated sofa, you can do miracles with white throws, white pillows around it. So I don't say, if you have everything else around the room that looks really nice, and then you kind of got what I'm going to call an eyesore, I would probably recommend replacing it or getting a rental piece of furniture. Lighter furniture is fabulous, but honestly, if that's the only thing that needs to replace, see what you can do with throws and a blanket first.
Okay, if you're going to paint the inside of your house, would you stick with whites, grays, or beiges?
Wow, those are the three questions. Those three colors are what we're hearing all the time. Is gray out? We've had gray for, 7, 8, probably 9 years now. And around here in the Nashville area, Middle Tennessee area, gray is still in. Many different colors of gray. What we are seeing is a lot of whites. So if you are using white, you have to use the right white. There is 117 different colors of white. So people see white in totally different ways. And if everything is all white in the room, you have to have color and texture to offset we don't want it to look like a cell or something. So if you use white, it's great, but it has to be the correct white and you have to bring in texture. Now beige, that was 10 years ago, but guess what? We are starting to see that turn around, but guess what? We're calling it Greige. So we're bringing in the gray and the tans, and we're mixing those together, and we're calling that Greige, and we're starting to get more of a warmer tone like that than what we were seeing in a lot of the grays.
Okay, what do you feel about removable backsplashes in the kitchen?
Removable backsplashes, if I think I understand the question, those were the stick-ons.
Yes.
That you don't have to, put the grouting in and things like that. If you have a removable backsplash, it should be in a lower priced home. I would say in our area, kind of a starter home, fixer-upper home is around $350,000 or less. If you're across the country, obviously that changes the equation. But if you are trying to get super top dollar, that's in, maybe the 400s or something, they're going to catch on that it's a removable backsplash. So I would probably recommend replacing it.
Okay, we have another question about the white cabinets.
Okay.
So if you have white cabinets in your kitchen, does the rest of the cabinetry woodwork in your house also need to be switched over to white?
Yes and no. So if you have white kitchen, you know, there's not a lot of wall space. Look around your kitchen. Most of our kitchens are just cabinetry, right? So within the kitchen area, I usually like to recommend the same color as the cabinetry. So we're not getting two different colors because it's going to kind of look like a stripe. A lot of times it's above the cabinetry or there's just a small wall beside the refrigerator. But that doesn't mean you have to have the same white throughout the rest of the house. But in the kitchen or any leading into rooms, I would say I would try to match that as closely as possible.
Okay, and the last question I have is, can I paint my front door red?
Okay. There's a lot of red front doors out there. It has actually several different meanings based on your religious areas or if you study feng shui and things like that. So usually I recommend that we do not have a red front door. But gosh, you know what? Painting your front door, here's the colors I love. I love black or a deep charcoal. I love a teal, or I love like a lighter gray or maybe even a deeper green. Those colors, but they do have to make sense and match the rest of the front of the house. So probably the easiest thing to do is to go black, but not if you have brown shutters and brown a roof or mulch and things like that. Get a professional opinion on that.
Okay, we did have one more come in while you were talking.
Okay.
How do I choose the right white?
Oh, you know what? That's the question I get if I had $1 for every time I get that question. The right white, and you're not going to like my answer, I'm going to be real honest with you, is what works in your home. So do we need a warmer white because we have warmer floors? And we have to work the whites around the other things that are staying in the home. So if we have a granite countertop, we need to have a good white. So you probably typically go with a little bit more warmer whites. So there is not the perfect white because you could put it in your house and someone else could put it in their house and it will look totally different based on the surrounding areas.
Perfect. That's all we have.
You know what? Thank you all so much. I hope this was helpful, a good use of your time. If you have more questions that we didn't get to or you thought of later, you can email me at kim@thestagingconsultant.com. A lot of these things, just by using a professional stager for a consultation, is truly one of the best bangs for your buck when you're talking about using a stager. So love to help. Thank you again. I hope you all enjoyed it.